So let's start with the question that's been keeping a lot of hobby machinists up at night. Who is the Sherline 2000A CNC-Ready Deluxe 8-direction mill package actually good for? Who should walk away? And does it justify the price tag for the everyday maker who just wants a reliable little mill? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I hear the hesitation a lot when people first see a deluxe CNC mill that promises 8 directions of travel. The main fear is ending up with a machine that looks great on paper but turns out to be a nightmare to set up, or that you pay for a feature you'll never actually use. On the flip side, the upside is a machine that can grow with you. You start with simple manual work, then add the CNC controller and suddenly you're able to do 3-axis machining without buying a whole new table. That's the kind of trade-off most small shop owners wrestle with, and the Sherline 2000A tries to sit right in the middle. First off, who should consider buying this unit? If you're a hobbyist or a small business maker who already owns a basic Sherline mill and is looking to step into CNC without breaking the bank, this package makes a lot of sense. The deluxe part of the name isn't just a marketing fluff, it really means you get the base mill, a ready-to-install CNC controller, and the extra linear guides that let you move the table or the spindle in 8 distinct directions. That flexibility is especially useful if you plan to work on irregular parts, like aerospace brackets or custom brackets for drones, where you need to rotate the workpiece and still retain precise linear motion. On the other hand, if you are a complete beginner who has never touched a lathe or mill, you might find the learning curve steeper than you expect. The machine expects you to understand basic CNC concepts, code, coordinate systems, and the way the controller communicates with the stepper motors. There's no plug-and-play wizard that will magically teach you everything. In that case, you could end up spending more time on YouTube tutorials than on actual machining, which defeats the purpose of buying a ready-to-go package. Now, let's talk about the practical strengths that actually matter when you pull the machine out of the box. One of the biggest wins is the 8-direction travel. In a typical 3-axis mill you have X, Y, and Z motion, but the Sherline 2000A adds 2 extra axes in the form of a rotary table and a tilting head. This means you can machine a part on its side, then rotate it 90 degrees without having to refixture it. In practice, this cuts down on setup time dramatically. For example, a woodworker who builds custom guitar parts can mill the body in one orientation, then flip it to add decorative inlays without ever removing the piece from the vise. That sort of workflow is hard to achieve on a standard 3-axis mill without additional accessories. Another real-world benefit is the modular nature of the package. The controller is designed to be retrofitted onto any existing Sherline mill, so if you already have a 2000 series base, you can upgrade without purchasing a whole new machine. The stepper drivers are pre-wired, which saves you a handful of hours that would otherwise be spent troubleshooting motor wiring. I've seen a few makers mention that they were able to get the system up and running within a weekend, assuming they had the basic CAD/CAM workflow in place. That speed of deployment is a tangible value that often gets overlooked when you just skim the spec sheet. There are, however, some hidden trade-offs that you need to keep in mind. The first one is the size of the work envelope. Even though you get 8 directions, the actual travel limits are still bound by the relatively compact footprint of a Sherline mill. If you're planning to produce larger parts, say, a small aluminum bracket that's 108 inches, you'll quickly discover that the bed simply isn't big enough to accommodate the whole piece in one go. You'll have to split the job or go for a different machine entirely. That limitation is not a defect, it's just the nature of a desktop-class mill. A second point concerns rigidity. While the Sherline brand has a reputation for decent precision at its price point, the 8-direction setup adds extra moving joints, and each additional axis introduces a bit more flex under heavy-cut loads. In my conversations with seasoned users, the consensus is that the machine shines when you're working with softer materials like aluminum, brass, or plastics, but it starts to show chatter when you try to push it through dense steel or large, deep cuts. If you routinely need high precision, high-torque machining, you might find yourself hitting the limits of the frame sooner than you'd like. Thermal stability is another practical weakness that shows up in long runs. Because the mill is built around a fairly small spindle motor and doesn't have an enclosed enclosure, the temperature can drift a bit after the motor runs for an hour or more. In a hobby setting,